Howdy folks, Elcorix here, and welcome to Thoughts from the Inner Sphere, episode 57. Alright, today we're going to be talking about that medium mech, the Assassin. Kind of like the Cicada, but a little bit better, I believe, than the Cicada. And as we said last week, a lot of things stand the same, but we're going to talk about this one. Now, the Assassin, 40 tons. It's a 711-7, so it's a lot better. It has those 7 jump jets, which makes it a little bit more mobile. Can get around, which we all like. Alright. It carries 72 points of armor, which it does have the same similar problems with the, like we talked about the Cicada. It's missing a lot of armor, but, you know, it's I think a little bit more mobile, and I have a tendency to use it a little bit more on the battlefield, and as a result it's going to find itself staying alive a bit longer, and it can do a little bit more activities that you can't with the Cicada or the Jenner per se. Now, with those 72 points of armor just kind of scattered around, it can take some hits from like a AC-10 or a PPC to the torsos and continue on, because it does have at least, 10 points in those locations, and then keep on trucking. Now it's going to have a big hole there for anything that's following on, but hopefully your speed going to keep you alive. Now, equipment. This thing carries a medium laser in the right arm, a large, or not a large laser, but it's a LRM5 in the right torso, an SRM2 in the left torso, each with 1 ton of ammo, and then it carries the 7 jump jets. So it has 1 in the center, and then the right and left torso both carry 3. Which does give it some capability to not explode if you do get in through all that armor, because obviously you're going to be carrying a ton in the right torso of ammo and a ton in the left torso for an ammo. And so that pretty much gives you a 1 in 5 chance of hitting the ammo. And that's not always a good thing. You got about a 20% chance of hitting ammo and watch this thing go nuclear. But with that 7-11 movement, just like a Jenner, you can get around pretty good. What you can do with a Jenner, you can do with this. But with that LRM5, you can do a little bit more harassing at longer range, which I kind of like, is that you can sit there and at least range 21 and plink away with that little LRM5. Yeah, it's not going to be a lot of damage. Average it's probably going to be 3, because usually that's what you're going to be rolling. Because dice rolls are going to be averaging about 3 points of damage, and you might gamble and say, hey, every once in a while you're going to get that golden BB and hit somebody in the center torso or right or left torso, with a chance of critical, and you maybe sneak something in and hit something juicy. Don't bank on it, but hey, life has a tendency to work our ways. I've been played plenty of games, and I've gave you examples over the last year of games where suddenly something just hits perfectly and you just watch somebody go nuke. Just like we had a game, I guess it was back in April, where a dervish got hit, and the only thing it had there was like you had a chance critical with just a little plinking shot like that, and it hit the ammo, and the dervish just turned itself into a crater. So yeah, it can happen. Don't gamble on it. Don't bank on it happening, but if it does, bonus shot. All right. Now, what do I use this thing for? 100% scout. Whatever you do with most of your light mechs, this I think is more of a light mech category. Even though it's 40 tons, it's in the medium category. It has the armor of a light. It has the speed of a light. So it definitely is not going to be going out there and doing slugfest. And you're not going to be doing a lot of damage. You know, your damage potential with this thing is 14 points of damage if you maxed out. And if you fired everything and you just ran, that's what, 4, 7, 9. 9 points of heat. Okay, so you could run within, if you're within 9 hexes of somebody, you could fire everything and run and not heat up this mech. So that's not a problem. The only time you're really going to worry about heat with this thing is if you jump. And, you know, if you jump 7, and why not jump 7? Because if you're jumping 7, that's at least giving you the opportunity to maximize your modifiers, which keeps this thing alive. Because I just said before, this thing doesn't have a lot of armor on it, so it's going to get hurt if you slow it down. So maximize your movement. So if you do jump 7 and you fire everything, that puts you up at what, 14? And 14, you got 10 heat sinks. You're going up 4. That's not a problem. It's just when you get up to the higher modifiers, up to the 5, then you're going to be -1 on your foot movement. You can still jump to 7. It just means you got to jump to 7 the next turn and not fire something or 2 and cool off a little bit, and then, you know, not even fire but the LRM. That's 2. That would cool you off some. Okay, you can do that. All right, that's just how you operate these things. Try not to cook your mech. And that's always thing I always said over the year. You're never doing yourself any favors when you start barbecuing yourself. All right, you know, if you want to take a sauna bath, go find someplace and relax in a hot tub or something elsewhere. The battlefield's not the place to do it. Now, what do I like doing with this thing? I like to run it as fast as I can, or jump it at least the 7 modifier, because either way, 7 or 11, you're getting about the same modifier. And looking out ahead, you know, you always got, that's the thing with any type of mech that's doing any type of recon activities, you always got to look out ahead on the field. You know, it's a little bit different. Let's say you're using a hex map. You know, the hex map, you're kind of limited sometimes what your terrain is. And if you play in the same maps all the time, you know exactly where you're going to go. You know, there's no mystery when you're playing on hex maps. But if you're playing like open terrain, like your typical battlefield where, you know, each game can be slightly different, you know, your train's moved around, look out ahead. It's like, okay, there's some heavy woods over there, there's a hill there, there's a heavy woods and behind a hill. If I jump over here or run over here, get into the heavy woods, and I'm slightly behind hill so I get some partial cover, hey, great. Or hey, that wooded hex is behind a building, so I get some partial cover behind the building, maximizing my modifiers. And then they're over. It's like, okay, I need 11s or 12s to hit the assassin, or I need 8s to hit the heavy mech. What do you think they're going to probably do? 9 times out of 10, they're probably going to shoot at the heavy mech. Because really, are you worried about the typically probably just the 3 points of damage coming from this thing, or are you worried about the thing that's carrying the PPC and LRM15 or something of that nature? All right, or an LRM10. I'm probably going to go after the guy that's got more firepower and kind of ignore the guy unless he's getting into, let's say you got an SRM carrier or an LRM carrier back in the backfield, or some type of command control vehicle that you're supposed to be protecting, and this guy's getting near it. Yeah, I might actually try to displace something and take some shots at it just to maybe warn it away a little bit. Or not. It's up to the pilot. Now, typically what I like about this thing also is it has at least one hand actuator. So if you're going into a game where you got to move stuff, pick up stuff, it can do that. Also, one nice thing about this thing was with the 7 jump jets, if you get into a city fight or anything of that nature, this thing will excel in a city fight because it can jump over top high buildings, move from one alleyway to a next, or this street or that street, get in behind somebody, and then unload into their backside and then give them a punch. All right? Yeah, one of your weapons obviously is in one of your hands, or your arm is going to be, so you're not going to be punching with that one. So you might consider either punching or kicking. All right? But I like doing that thing. I'm typically, if I can punch somebody in the back of the head, that might distract them from trying to shoot at somebody else that's way down the street, etc. Also, a nice thing about this thing is that it moves so fast and can displace so fast, it's hard to pin this thing down. And since it's a medium, typically your mediums are not as mobile as your lights, but this thing has the mobility of a light. It can get in and get into the backfield and start harassing stuff. Let's just say you have somebody has a archer or a longbow or something of that nature in the backfield, and you get into their minimum range with this thing, they're going to be hurting. You can just walk around them and shoot with your lighter weapons and then punch them, hit them, and just keep moving around. And or jump behind some cover or something, and they try to displace out of the area, looking and hollering for help, and then you jump in right back or run in behind them again and then give them another swift kick in the butt. Works. Alright. Now, another thing I like with this mech is that with that SRM2, what do I like to do with SRM2s? A lot of times I like to throw an Inferno on it. Okay? Nothing like barbecuing. So if you get into a game where you got somebody that likes to cook their mechs hot, I've said this before, if you put Inferno rounds on this thing, and then you can up their heat by 3, 6, alright, you're going to do yourself all kinds of favors. Now, they may not like that favor, but you're going to like it yourself, because if you're doing that kind of stuff and you're heating them up and you're putting up higher on the threshold, and if they're carrying any type of ammo, that might be the difference between them firing something else at you, especially if they're a heat manager like me, and suddenly I got 6 extra heat I wasn't expecting. That can make a big difference, especially if it's say a light mech, and you hit them, they say they jumped and they used up all of their heat management and fired a little bit, so they're running, let's say, 4 up on the heat scale, and you hit them with an Inferno and suddenly they're at the 10 factor. That forces them to either do the old, either not fire anything and jump the heck out of there or run out of there. That mitigates any type of damage to you. Good deal. Win-win. Alright, that's what I like to do. Or if you get yourself into where you hit an assault mech and you just kick them up on 6 more on the heat scale, oh yeah, they're not going to like it at all. So, that's pretty much how I like to do everything with this mech. It's, I'm kind of, preaching to the choir probably by this time, but always use your cover, all your concealment you can, move as fast as you can, never slow down, because if you slow down, this mech will die. You don't want it to die because it doesn't have the armor, and it dies pretty quickly. And it gets in all that juicy stuff past all that armor, which is pretty lean, okay? So move, move, move. Never slow down. Alright. So, alright, you guys will have a good one, and put it wherever you want down below. We can talk about it if you have some really interesting stories, however you used one before, if you like it or not. And hit the old subscribe button, and we'll see you later. HowCorrect's out.